So within R82, there are some new cool features, and I would say the biggest ones are the Elastic XL. This is a new clustering technique. So it's something between like Cluster XL and Maestro, so you can have multiple boxes within a security group, have it gateway centric, more or less have it scaled without an orchestrator. So it's pretty cool. And then we have the VSNext, and this is the new generation of VSX, more or less to put it more similar to a normal gateway. Make it simpler for normal gateways customers to utilize VSX functionalities. Because VSX, it have some caveats that I really like, and some that is quite annoying. And just as a disclaimer, so R82 is currently only early availability. So there has been a lot of presentation on like CPX regarding R82, but as of April or beginning of April 2024, R82 is not just released. So there may be some changes, and I think that as Elastic XL and VSNext, it will be brand new within R82. So there will be limitations, and I think there will be changes when it comes to later release to address some of these limitations and more or less feedback from the community. So most of these slides within my presentation are based on the presentation that was presented on CPX 2024. So this is just my take on VSNext. I don't work for Checkpoint. I have no affiliate with Checkpoint. I work for a service provider that is partner with Checkpoint. But I'm just a big geek that think this is quite funny. So just so you're aware of this, my information is based on public information and information that was presented in CPX from R&D and products owner, etc. The general idea of VSNext is to be able to have a more gateway-centric solution. So one of the limitations today when it comes to VSX is that it's based on having all the information in the management station. So this makes backups, upgrades a lot more complicated. I mean, if you're used to work with VSX, it's not really complicated, but it's more complicated than normal gateways. You also need to have more or less specific design because you have a VS0 and the virtual systems doesn't need to reach the management station itself. However, if you want to use a lot of like functionalities such as identity awareness, you still need to have this connectivity between the gateway and the management station. So the main thing that is different when it comes to like VSX and gateways is on normal gateways, you do a lot of configuration within the network part in Gaia Clish or in the Gaia web portal. And when it comes to VSX, you do it in the smart console. And when you do it in the smart console, you change it on the management station and then you push the configuration out to the VSX system. So the information is actually held within the management station and then it's pushed there. So this makes backups, etc. more complicated. So for example, if you do show configuration, you will not see the virtual system specific configuration within the show configuration. You will only see the box. So I understand this is a bit more complicated video than normal, but I just want to highlight some difference and more or less my thoughts about the VSX next functionalities. As seen, I have just like took a lot of print screens on the video and some I just highlight the presentation itself, but this is available on Checkmate community, so you can check Checkpoint's official presentation when it comes to Elastic XL and VSNext. The general approach is to make it more simpler, so more customers can use VSX functionalities in an easier way. Such as on normal gateways, you can use APIs. On VSX, it doesn't have APIs. Yes, VSX have something called VSX provisioning, and you could potentially run a script to run a script on the management station to activate the VSX provisioning script to the VSX and do the configuration more or less automatically, but it's too complicated. It's not the correct way to do like automation and APIs, etc. So this is a way for Checkpoint to make it more simpler. They also want to make upgrades more simple, because if you upgrade VSX previously, I don't remember when it was, it like maybe two versions ago, maybe 3 versions ago, there were no downgrade. So you needed to restore like snapshots, etc. You could do downgrades, but it was not supported. But yeah, it worked. It have saved me a bunch of time. But more or less they want to do more separation between network and security tasks. This is one of the features I don't agree with. But there are some nice things. So one thing when you work with VSX and when it's large boxes, when you do like topology changes. So we see here that here Checkpoint have made like estimate, creating switch, etc., adding routes, pushing stuff. I don't know what they're referring to really when it comes to like the specific minutes here, if it's how long it takes to actually perform it within the smart console. Because manual topology changes within VSX, I mean the administrative time taken to just click it, yes, it's longer if you want to push in a lot of routes at the same time, then it's a bit of a hassle. Yeah, you can do it in the GUI and click next and do it fully manual, because you cannot do like within CLI and just do set or add routes as a normal gateway. So this takes a lot longer time. But for me, that's not the biggest thing. For me, the biggest thing is when you have large VSX clusters and you want to do these changes, they are not direct. So I will give you an example. So if we today have a VS system and you have an internet, and your plan is to, I want to change service provider, or I need to change the default route. So within VSX today, you log into the smart console and you have the topology, and then you can just add route or change route. And when you click OK, then it will start to push the configuration. This means that you will have an outage. And this can take time. So an example, if I only have a few virtual system and not many routes, this is a few seconds, maybe 1 minute. But if you have like 50 systems within one box and you have 3,000 routes, this can take 5 to 10 minutes. Then you have 5 to 10 minutes outage. And that is horrible. So you need to wait for this operation to finish, it's generating topology, and then it's done. But it's not yet done. You actually need to install the policy for it to be done as well. So this change, this is really good that you will be able to go into CLI and just push the changes. So that is the good part about it. So this is how long it takes to more or less flip the default route. However, if I just move back here, so let's say I have a service desk and I want the service desk to be able to change routes. It's very easy for a service desk to change route here, because they can just do it in Smart Console. They will only have access to the specific VS. They can only destroy the specific VS. But the new way with VSNext, you cannot do this in the smart console anymore. You need to change on the box itself, same as a normal gateway, fetch the topology, and then install the policy. So that's a major difference. And for a service provider, I'm not super happy about that, because I don't really want to give access to the box itself and so on. Yes, you can have limitations, but let's move on. To run VSNext, VSNext can only run on ElasticXL and Maestro. And ElasticXL is limited to appliances. So ElasticXL and Maestro is only supported as of today and R82 for appliances. So this is not working for open servers. It's not, I don't think it's supported for like CloudGuard as well. You can run it in a lab, in a demo, in VMware, so you can test this functionality within your own virtual lab within VMware. So that's great, but it's not supported. It's only supported for appliances as of today. So when you're installing a new cluster with ElasticXL, you can select VSNext, and when you go into the Gaia portal, you can flip between the virtual systems for the Gaia portal and make changes. So you have this little tab here where you can change which virtual system do you want to make changes in. And then the configuration is synced between the different boxes, because it's one management object that is controlling the full cluster. So within the smart console, it will look like a regular gateway. So you have one management object to change within the smart console. You don't have 15 different boxes there, even if you have multiple boxes within your cluster. This is a big change. And as I said, I'm not 100% sure about how I feel about it. Maybe I'm just used to the old VSX and need to go with the flow. I don't know. Of course, I want it to be supported for open servers. Hopefully, it will come later. When it comes to new features like this, it will always be first on appliances, and then later on, potentially, it would come to open servers. I have no idea if it comes to open servers or not. So it has with, or some part of it has to do with how you add additional members. So this is the same presentation, but actually earlier, because I'm thinking like, okay, ElasticXL. So when you do an installation on a box, you install the box, you run the first time wizard, but you actually do it only on one box. So you only do it on the first box, you run the first time wizard, and then because it's appliances and it's already have the correct operating system, meaning R82, it will more or less find the boxes themselves. So ElasticXL is not depending on any orchestrator, but the boxes will find themselves. If I would guess, and I have no actually idea about this, I would guess that they used the LLDP to just find the different things. But you're able to see within the cluster management pending gateways, and then you can add additional gateways and they will show up, and you can create a new site, so you have dual site, or you can add it to your existing site and load share the traffic between the two boxes in the same site. I understand it was a lot. I think it will be easier when we just do the labs about it. It will probably make more sense. But you can add additional site. So you have two sites with one gateway each, and then you have have them as HA, and then you can add VSX with VSLS. So it's I think it makes sense later on. So more or less, when you build a cluster with ElasticXL, you power on the first appliance, you run the first time wizard, you configure the interfaces, you enable the SIC, connect to the management station, you push the policy. And then you power up the second appliance, connect the cables, and then you see this pending gateways like magic. And for this to work, yes, the boxes need to be connected with like the sync cables, the management cables in the same VLAN so they can see each other. And this is also one of the things why I think appliances is the first step here, because on appliances you have dedicated interfaces for management and sync, and we will talk more about that later in this presentation, but more or less that's why. If you're adding additional members, you can see more information. So ElasticXL or an R82 is adding something called insights. So insights is, I would like to compare it with CPView, and I really hope that they do like a combination between CPView or insights, or if they replace each other's. I don't really know. We will see. We will test it. But insights is so you can see overview, statistics, alerts, etc. And it looks quite cool actually. When it comes to clusters themselves, I mean, you have the web GUI, so you can do changes. You can run this with you can run commands within CLI, global clish, I think it's called. Yeah, global clish, or you can use the web GUI to do things then. And just as a highlight, you see here it's VMware, so they're running this demo in VMware, so you can test it yourself, and I think that's the best way to go. And I just want to highlight, to talk a bit about VSX, the existing VSX. So existing VSX, you can have multiple members. I think it's 12. I think it's 12. But on all of these members, so in this example, you have 3 members. One virtual system can only load maximum 1 box. So the throughput of one virtual system can maximum be for 1 box. So if you wanted to have additional performance and still have this virtualization with VSX, you needed to run Maestro. And Maestro is requiring appliance boxes and an orchestrator. And it's a different thing. It's before they were using called SP versions. Now they say it's the same code and so on, but I still maintain it's different. It's still different codes, different bugs, and you have this. Yes, it's the same image more or less, but it's still a bit separate. But my point here is, when you're running VSX without Maestro, a virtual system can only load 1 member to the maximum. So if we go for the new thing, so if you want to have a lot of performance on one single VS, you will go with Maestro. So Maestro, you can have, it says here 14 members per group per site. So you can load traffic across 14 appliance boxes. It's insane amount of traffic. However, with ElasticXL, you can have 3 members per site, and you can have dual site. and it works like when the traffic comes in, it will go to, yeah, it says here, the pivot member, like the primary member will decide who will actually managing the traffic. So like load sharing. Um, so it's I think it will be good. It's not as linear scaling as with Maestro, because Maestro is using a hardware appliance to like really scale out. So Elastic XL is software. So then Checkpoint is like saying like when to use Elastic XL. As far as I know, and I think it's in the Q&A after here, like you cannot flip between Elastic XL and Core XL, so it needs to be for new deployment, meaning a clean installation from scratch. And I would recommend that as well. When something is brand new, don't upgrade your existing environment before you have actually tested it. And it's easier to test in a new environment in a controlled way. And it's 3 nodes per site. So that means that VSX with Elastic XL is actually scaling less when it comes to performance within a cluster, so to say. But normally when I work with VSX, it's normally 3 or 4 nodes. I have never seen anyone running like 8 nodes within a cluster, because it's more or less too complicated when it comes to upgrades, and you want to flip want to flip VSS between different members and so on. And Checkpoint is also stating like when it comes to like real high performance, of course it's Maestro. I don't know if you can have a mixed match between appliances within Elastic XL. I would assume that is not possible in the first release. That's how it was in Maestro. It was not possible in the first release. Then they added this functionality. But this is something that you really need to check before doing a deployment. What is the limitation of Elastic XL? Because it's brand new. As I said, currently it's EA, so it's not production. And it's not the recommended release from Checkpoint as of yet either. So we need to wait and see. So just to clarify it here then. So you can have dual site with maximum 3 members, and these need to be appliance boxes, and I'm assuming that they need to be on the same model. Then you can still have all the 6 members within this 2 clusters, so to say, active at the same time. But a VS system is active within the same site, and then HA on the other side. And the virtual system 1 can scale between cluster member 1 to 3, so you can get additional performance. So currently you cannot pinpoint like a virtual system to a specific box within the cluster, so that's not a feature that is available as of today. When it comes to VSNext, there are predefined rules. So the VS0 or the management, it will be on the management interfaces. Same with the sync, it will be on the sync interfaces. I mean the physical interfaces on this box, and then you will have production traffic on your other interfaces. And this is why I think it's like Elastic XL is requiring appliances, because they're assuming specific things when it comes to interfaces. I mean, if you're running this in a virtualized environment, they will assume that, I think it was management for ETH0 and sync for ETH1. I will check. So, yes, I actually asked R&D about this because I was thinking like, how can I make videos about this? Do I need to buy appliances? Because this is my personal things. I don't use my work stuff for this. I actually have a work lab, but I don't use it when I make YouTube videos. Um, so so I asked Jada and Shay about this, and they said like there's no issue with VM for labs or demo. As lab and demo, I will repeat that once again. Lab and demo, you can run this in VMware. You will need to make sure interface 0 will be connected to your management network, and Ethernet 1 will be connected to your sync network. And this is to make sure that it works and they find each other and so on. As before, VS0 is to connect to your management station. It's not to run production traffic on. It's monitoring the system, and it's connected to your management stations. And this is the VS0 is more or less like it's critical infrastructure when it comes to VSX. You need to make sure to protect it. So yeah, make sure to protect it. And by the way, they're creating, as you see here, they're creating a switch. So they're creating a switch, and they're using interfaces, and this MAG. This is something new when it comes to VSNext on Elastic XL. We'll talk about more of that in a later video, I guess. You will still be able to see the things in Gaia shell in Clish, in Gaia global shell, because you have one IP address that you can connect to and see all the virtual systems, or you can see it in the Gaia GUI. And you see here that you have the cluster management, you have the network interface, and you have this, which virtual system or am I making changes for. So this part, it looks good. And when you're creating a virtual gateway or a virtual... are you calling it virtual gateway now, or are you calling it virtual system? Because here it says creating virtual system. And here it says creating virtual gateway. And here it says virtual gateway. So maybe Checkpoint has changed the names. It's not the first time. But within old VSX, it's called virtual system. Apparently here it's called virtual gateway. And they state then this can be done within 1 minute, and you do it not from the smart console. You do it within the Gaia portal. And then you connect it with SICK. So it will be very similar as a normal gateway compared to old VSX, where you do it from the smart console, create virtual system, and then it's pushed out to the gateways themselves. So it's a difference. And here you have this insights, so you can see what's happening to your virtual system, to your cluster, to get some more references of what is actually happening and how to mitigate things. And this is something that I really like, that Checkpoint is highlighting more and more what is happening, and also putting a severity. Like, is this a real an issue, or is this just for information? And then more human readable description. So this is the correct way to go. And this is what I meant with like CP View. Is this going to be replaced by Insights? Because CP View today is you're able to see like statistics about memory throughputs, etc. And you have the same statistics here about connections and throughput for specific boxes, for specific virtual systems. So I'm assuming, and I hope I'm right, that Insights will replace CP View. Maybe someone from Checkpoint can comment, and maybe we don't know until R82 is finally really released. Because it says like system monitoring, Okay. I'm just thinking it's the same. It looks better here. Um, in the presentation, they mentioned that secure CRT is not yet supported. PuTTY is supported. I don't know why. I guess it has to do with how it's presented within GUI. I will assume again uh, that secure CRT will work because I'm using secure CRT. So make sure it works. Yeah. Um, and this is also what I mentioned before. Like before, virtual systems didn't need to have access to the management station directly, because before they have the internal communication network, and then you have the VS0 from the VSX nodes that communicate with the management stations, and then you could managing the cluster, and you can do a lot of things. You can even push policies with even having routes from the VS itself. So it was perfect for guest access networks, or like if you want to have exactly the same IP addresses in some virtual systems and on the same boxes, and things should just work. So you have really good segmentation when it comes to old VS. Now all VSs will by default be connected to this management switch that is automatically created when you enable VSNext, and this will by default use the management interfaces on the appliance box. For example, if you have two physical infrastructures, like you have your production traffic within a data center network, and then you have your management interface in an out-of-band management network, like physical different infrastructure, you need to consider this. So the management ports that is using on the appliance will need to reach the management stations. Yeah, and it's the same as before. So each virtual system has its own routing table and its own policy. So they are completely separated from each other, but they need to be connected to the management switch so they can reach the management network. And as far as I know, and I don't remember from which presentation this is, because I don't see it here. But before, each of the VSs within one VSX cluster needed to go to the same management station that controlled the VSX cluster. So if you have an MDS, all of the VSs needed to be connected to different CMAs within the same MDS. But it needed to be the same MDS because the MDS was hosting the VSX cluster. But I don't remember who told me this, so maybe don't quote me for this. But the plan, and I don't know if it will be released within R82 directly, is that VS1 can be controlled by one management station, and VS2 can be controlled by another management station, meaning two different MDSs or two different CMAs, so two different checkpoint management stations. So this gives a lot more flexibility. So that's a good thing. I don't know how long this video will be and how easy it will be to actually follow this video. And yeah, let's continue. So, as I said, VSX today has many limitations. And here are a few of them that I don't know if it will be supported from start or if it will come later on. But for example, ISP redundancy. This is not supported in VSX today. So this is something they are adding. SD-WAN, alias for interfaces, secondary IP addresses. And as I said here, like each different VSS can be managed by different management stations, So this also means that specific virtual systems can be managed by Smart One Cloud. So here you get some really flexibility. Q&Q, awesome. This is something that is really good when it comes to service providers, because then you can add VLANs within VLANs. So you can have a transport VLAN, and then you can have a lot more VLANs within your infrastructure if you use Q&Q. So that's good. And as they also highlight here, you can have specific admin roles per VS. So a lot new cool things to come within VSNext. So I'm looking forward for this. And then I'm just taking some of the Q&As that was the last picture. So the first one is there any converting tool? And currently no. So for R82, you need to do a new installation if you want to use ElasticXL, and then you can enable VSNext. So VSNext only works on ElasticXL or Maestro. Will there come a conversion tool? Yes, near term. I have no idea. Maybe it's just a jumbo hotfix, or it will be like R82.10. No idea. I don't think that you should buy products or assume products based on a roadmap, because roadmap change and there is no committed date. So I don't know. So management data plane separation support within VSNext. No. So this is if you want to use specific cores for the management traffic. Upgrades are supported. More information will come later. Is Maestro supported for VSNext? Yes. Is virtual routers supported? No. Don't use virtual routers. Don't use it. It's not worth it. It's pointless. I hate virtual routers because I don't know. I have had too many problems. Don't. If you want to use real routing, use real routers, and then you can use dynamic routing within your virtual system to a real router and have dynamic routing anyway. So I think that's better. So I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'm sorry. There will be more videos about VSNext, and this is just the initial thought, and this is based on presentations, and this is also based on, it's still an early availability. It's not yet fully production. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.